And, oh, but yeah, might come over to Tuesday. Come over to what? Sure. Tuesday.
All right, let's start down on our bellies today.
On my bellies. I know, I was surprised. She's got a quote. All right, I need one.
Just notice what it feels like to be belly down. Feel free to just stack your hands or your forearms and just rest your head on your arms. And the floor gives us a lot of feedback here. So listen in to what it feels like to be down on your belly. Notice what your low back feels like. If you're just coming in, grab 2 blocks and a blanket. And then feel your breath in your body. Notice if your low back is a little bit sensitive today. So we'll just take a moment to pause and feel in on a little bit deeper level regarding what's happening in your body right now, in this breath and in this moment. And it might feel good to even wiggle your hips around a little bit. So give yourself permission to do some little shifting, anything that would create a little bit more of a sense of ease in your body. And then without very much effort here, just lift your head up. So lift your head up and just look forward a bit. Careful not to strain your neck. Just lift and look forward and notice the effort that takes, or maybe the ease that's there. And then go back and forth a few times. So just lower down, forehead comes to the hands. And then on your inhale, just lift up and feel into how you do that. Lower back down. We'll just go back and forth with your breath, but every time you enter that lifted head position, just notice, do you lift by pressing in with your legs? Or do you lift your head by maybe squeezing into the back of your neck? Do you lift your head with your arms? Yeah. Can you feel the tissues around your spine engaging when you lift your head? And do your glutes clench when you lift your head? So we're here without any expectations. We're just here in an exploration of our own body and what we're noticing. And go ahead and just lower your head back down. And without lifting the head at all, just roll your head right to left to create a sense of ease in the back of your neck. And then put your left hand on top of your right hand. So left hand on top of right. Turn your right cheek to put on top of your left hand. From here, lift your left elbow up off of the floor, just your elbow, and lower it down. And we'll do that back and forth a few times. Lift your elbow and lower it down. So as we continue to just lift the elbow only up off the ground, feel into your body, maybe especially the back side of your body, and notice what happens. What happens in your scapula, which is your shoulder blade. Notice what happens in your spine. And which side of the spine do you feel here? And what happens in your low back and your glutes? And can you even sense that little lift of the elbow all the way through your legs somewhere? Does one leg want to lift off the floor? Does one leg get heavier or lighter in your body? So we're just here in learning and observing mode with curiosity. And then just let the elbow come down and rest. And just pause for a moment, enjoy your breath, and feel your breath in your body. And now with your cheek, still right cheek resting on left hand, now lift your hand and your head at the same time up off the floor. So a different action. Your gaze will be off to the left, your whole elbow will lift. You guys are exceptional at listening to directions. So yeah, lift the whole arm up. Thank you for helping me with that. And the head lifts with it. Careful not to strain. It can just be a little lift. Keep your cheek resting on your hand. So it's a little bit bigger movement. Thank you, Suzanne. And just feel there. What do you feel in your arms? Which part is doing the lifting? What do you feel throughout your whole body? Anytime during your practice today, if you feel like you need to rest, please allow yourself, give yourself permission to do that. Otherwise, just a gentle lifting and feeling. Really be in this embodied experience of what this is like. Which side of your spine, right to left, is calling your awareness? And which hip and leg? And then just slowly lower down. And then rest your forehead center again. Notice if you gathered any tension in your neck, and feel free to roll your head side to side if that's helpful for you to release tension. Then stack your right hand on top of your left, and your left cheek will rest on your right hand. And just see if maybe right away you might notice that something feels different about this head turn to the other side. And then just start to lift just your elbow up. Just the elbow lifts. And really feel into your body there. So as just your elbow lifts up, where do you feel that in your shoulder, in your rib cage, in your waist? Notice your back, both right to left sides. Notice if one of your gluteal tissues from your right to your left side of your buttocks is one of the sides of your buttocks clenching. And what's happening down into your legs and even your feet. And then just rest your head center again. And feel free to roll your head side to side. If you happen to gather any tension there, you can rock your hips a little bit. Do whatever helps you feel good right now in this moment. Notice how you're breathing. And then we'll move on to that little bigger lift. If anything in today's practice hurts your body in any way, then please just go to the first level that we started with. So you can always, rein it back in. Let's see what it feels like with right hand on top of left cheek on right hand. Lift the whole right arm up off the floor now, and your head follows. And your cheek and your temple or whatever you're holding there just rests on the hand as you lift. It's not about how much you can do here. It's not about how high you can lift. It's It's about how deeply you can feel into your body, the connections. We're coordinating the extensors of our body, which are our back bending tissues. And because the majority of us move through our day in forward positions on our electronics or in our work environments, in our sleep environments, it's very interesting to awaken these tissues and find connection with them. So just get curious. And then go ahead and release and come back to center, forehead down. Feel free to rock your head right to left. Maybe wiggle your hips or do anything you want to do to create a sense of ease in your body. I wonder what will happen if we add a leg. Let's find out. So let's go back to left hand on top of right, right cheek on left hand. Let's go to that second movement. So go ahead and lift both your head and your left arm up off the floor and lift your right leg at the same time. Indeed. And then slowly lower back down. If lifting the leg is too much, then you don't have to participate in that part of the action. Otherwise, just use it for a helpful inquiry into your body. Notice if you're trying to lift your head by only your neck, or do you push down with your arm, or do you push with the leg that's on the floor? And there aren't any right or wrong ways to do this. We're just feeling into our bodies. This is a somatic experience. You actually being here to learn from the wisdom of your own body. There's something to learn here about back bending. And it's okay to not really even know what it is yet. We're just here in the experience. So if I'm here doing way more repetitions than you prefer to do, give yourself permission to rest, or we'll just go in about 3 more times. Just see if you can clarify whether it's challenging to engage here, whether this feels very easy for you. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle of sensation. Just make sure you're not beasting on yourself or forcing agendas. Come back to center, take your head center. Feel free to gently rock your head right to left. Stack your right hand on top of your left hand. Turn your left cheek. Lift your whole arm and head off the floor and your left leg lifts. So opposite side lifts and then slowly lower. Our bodies are fascinating. So see if you can feel into all of the different nuances that are here within this movement. There's a connection happening all throughout your body. So just get curious about how we're coordinating the extensors of our body here. So you don't really have to even lift that leg too high. In fact, you might play with different experiments with your body. Maybe keep your leg really long, don't bend the knee. Feel that. And then maybe bend your knee a little bit and just check out what's different about that. And then ask yourself, without that suggestion, what was happening in your body when we went into extension? Were you just naturally bending your knee? Or were you naturally elongating out of your center? About 3 more breaths there. If anything's straining in your body, back out. And then come back to center. Release your forehead onto your hands. Just rock your head right to left, maybe sway your hips a little bit. Keep your hands stacked just as they are. So our right hand is on top of left, yeah? Okay, so right hand on top of left. Go ahead and lift both arms and the head up off the floor. And this can be a tiny lift. It doesn't have to be huge. Okay, hug your belly up off the floor to protect your back and lower down. And do that again. Lift up. Keep your forehead plugged down into your hands so you don't create a lot of wrinkles at the back of your neck. And release down. Let's do that one more time. Feel how you lift. Where do you push from? Where do you pull from? Lower down. Lift one leg up off the floor. Lower down. Lift your other leg up off the floor and lower down. Now let's try adding the head with it if you haven't yet. Let's go ahead and lift your head, lift your left leg up. If your back is feeling really sore or tired or about to go in a spasm or anything like that, then you need to reorganize. You either just lift the head, just lift one leg, maybe you just rest. If everything's feeling good, if you got a yes from your body, then try lifting both legs up. And then lower everything down at the same time. Just try that a couple more times with curiosity, making sure you're not hurting yourself in any way. So no pain in your body here. One more time, lift up, hold. If you're doing just fine, stay right there and glide your left elbow towards your left hip. And then glide your right elbow towards your right hip. So we're creating an arcing action in the body, which will cause your pelvis to rock if your legs are up off the ground. And even if your legs are plugged down into the earth, you'll likely feel that translation down into your pelvis. So if this feels like just a little too much of a push, then make sure you come out of it. Otherwise, you're just gliding the upper body right to left. Start feeling into the tissues underneath the armpits and into the side ribs and even your obliques. And lower all the way down with a sense of relief. Wiggle your pelvis around a little bit. And then rock your head right to left. Give yourself a few breaths here to rest and to do whatever helps you create a sense of ease in your body. Let's see if anything changes about what we feel if we just change the stacking of our hands. So now take your left hand on top. Let's go into the same. Now you know how to play here, so you can go into your own variations at any time you'd like. I'll briefly talk you through them and then we'll just explore. So just try lifting the head here and see if that feels any different with the different stacking of your hand. And then you can play with, how does my back feel about lifting a leg up? And because your belly is on the floor, your nervous system senses that you're supported. So with our awareness, we actually need to hug in the navel to the spine when we lift to help protect our low back. Otherwise, we might overextend in our low back, and we're not really looking for overextension. We're just looking to wake things up. So as much as you can, try long legs. But if that long lever is too stressful for your back, feel free to bend your knee as much as you need to. So maybe you've got both arms and legs lifting now. And then if you're still feeling good and you're holding all limbs up off the floor, try the glide. So side body shorten. Squeeze the ribs towards the pelvis on one side. Your elbow will come towards your side of the mat and toward your hip. And then just glide on through to the other side. And make sure that you're not straining your neck. So you've got a slight chin retraction, chin tucked down. And then lower back down to the floor. Feel free to rock your head right to left. Your pelvis can rock. You can turn one cheek and then the other. Just whatever you need to do right now. Feel in. Feel in and listen to your body. Enjoy a really long extended exhale. And then just repeat, do that again. And notice what happens in your body when you create a full long exhale. And then just roll onto your back. When you come onto your back, just wiggle into the earth. Just give yourself the permission to just wiggle and wiggle and wiggle till you get comfortable. If your low back is stressed in any way and it bothers you to extend your legs long, then feel free to bend your knees and put your feet on the floor. And just for a moment and a few breaths, investigate what did you just learn about back bending and the connections to the back side of your body. So let's investigate a little bit more the connections between our scapula, our scapulae on the back. So those are your shoulder blades. Feel them into the floor. And they're like little, you can think about them as little dishes almost, holding your rib cage. So breathe into your body and feel your rib cage being held by your shoulder blades. And then imagine if we traveled with our awareness underneath our armpits. We have these serrated tissues that they're kind of angular shaped and they angle into your rib cage. So see if you can imagine those serrated tissues that come through your rib cage from the front side and the back. So when you breathe and you imagine your shoulder blades holding your ribs, can you also imagine those wraparound tissues that move in through your rib cage and also connect down through your obliques? So you can think about your side waist tissues, side of your rib cage, and down towards your hips. So let's explore how this whole area is connected by rolling onto one side. Just roll onto whatever side you can see me best to begin with, and grab your blanket and create a pretty thick fold so you have something really comfortable for your head and in between your shoulder and your head in a side lying position. If you're at home, just grab a pillow or something like that. A block would even work. You just don't want to crunch down too much pressure in our bottom shoulder. And get your legs comfortable and extend both arms long in front of you and just stack your hands. You'll figure out where your legs need to be, so just let yourself reorganize as many times as necessary. And then just slide your top hand forward in front of your bottom hand and feel your scapula, your shoulder blade, come away from your rib cage there. And then just slide it on back. And you can just play with the range of motion you use here. I just want you to explore the connection to when your arms move, when your fingertips come forward your scapula is moving, your shoulder blade is moving. And you can almost just imagine it scrubbing along the rib cage and then bring it back. So that's the action. We're just going forward and back and just feel into all of that connective tissue. So the serrated tissues that come to the front of your ribs actually go right underneath the breast tissue. And then the serrated tissues that come along the back of your rib cage. And can you even notice, maybe especially when you pull back, can you feel, what if you initiated or exaggerated the pull back with your waist and your obliques? So maybe just for an investigation, for an experience, just an experience, and that's it. What if we exaggerated certain aspects of that? Now imagine you have the strongest armpit ever and draw the whole straight arm back from your armpit. Now that's going to track into sort of those serrated tissues around your ribs a little bit more. And so from the outside, it looks like, if I were to just look at all of you, I'd say, what in a person not knowing what we're doing with our connected action, I would just say, oh, well, you're just moving your arm forward and back. But it's not really the arm moving forward and back, is it? Even though that's happening. It's like all of this connected tissue, your rib cage is involved, your shoulder is involved, your waist is involved, your sternum to the front is involved. And feel into your own body and find out what else is involved in this action. There's a lot happening there. And now let's explore another action. And remember, you can always come back to something that you're more or less interested in. So now let's try drawing the arm back, palms touch, and then take the top arm up over your head. Elbow comes to the ceiling and squeeze your shoulder blade into the back. And then just come back around. So it's like a half little arc up over your head and lower the arm down and feel what has to let go to lower your arm down. And feel if your head and neck want to roll with your arm. And notice how your arm is connected into your rib cage and into your chest, your armpit, your shoulder blade, your back. And if any of that action hurts, if it causes a grimace in your face, what will you do to stop hurting yourself? So do you need to change your rotation? Do you need to do less? Do you need to stop doing this altogether? So keep that awareness. Make sure you're not in pain. We're in a really body-wise investigation. So there's another action to explore. I find that one interesting, especially when the arm comes up and your elbow comes towards the ceiling. And then can you feel gravity? Just let the arm dangle there. And then your shoulder blade will come back to your spine. And your armpit softens. And it's an interesting place to be. Just twice more. See if you can let the shoulder blade drop back. It might be really ratchety, wonky when it does that. That's okay. And then let's explore one more action. So take your palms together again. And then just open the fingertips right up to the ceiling and then create this whole rainbow arc all the way to take your hand back behind you on the floor. So that's a lot of rib cage action. So now we're into thoracic rotation, but I don't want you to just think about this as I'm going into a twist. Yes, that is happening for sure. I want you to follow the connectivity of your arm to your shoulder blade, to your rib cage, to your waist, to your spine, to your chest, to your sternum, your breastbone, and see if you can coordinate the movement so everything is moving together. Very different than just flinging your arm back behind you. The whole unit is moving together. And now that you know these 3 actions, those are just some of the actions. There's many more that we could play with. But just feel free, if any of those are more interesting to you than others, or if there's a spot that your body just wants to linger in that's very informative to you, allow that to happen. Otherwise, just investigate in any way, shape, momentum, maybe change rotations, internal, external rotation of shoulder. Maybe wiggle in, use the belly more. So you can have like a big seagrass arm up there, just in exploration, or you can keep it more linear and more precise. So whatever is giving you more information about your body. Like, what are you really curious about? And we'll enjoy this for about 3 more breaths. Try not to move past points that get really ratchety or shaky, or it might feel like all of the action is smooth and then all of a sudden it's like you lose the integrity there in the tissues. Those are very interesting places in your own body to be with. Okay, let's go ahead and change over to the other side. So whenever you're ready. I love the options that some of you, because it felt better for your body, put something in between your knees. That's really cool to see that without even my suggestion of that. So any little thing that makes you even a little more comfortable is worth doing. So let's explore shoulder, rib, scapula connections on the other side. So let's start with hands stacked and just do that glide. Slide the hand forward, fingertips reach ahead of the others, and then draw back. And you might just notice what's different on this side. Maybe on this side, when you pull back, maybe your elbow wants to bend, and maybe that didn't happen on the other side. So just any little subtle differences even are worth noticing. Ask yourself if you're trying to do that action by rocking your whole body. See if you can keep the arms straight. So it's not so much, maybe try not to bend the elbow so much. Do this more from your shoulder blade and rib cage connection. So feel your shoulder blade move forward, and then your shoulder blade glide over your ribs towards your spine. And it's okay if it doesn't feel like an easy coordination to have happen. Okay, our shoulders are the most mobile joints in our body, which also means they're most susceptible to injury. Especially if we don't understand the connection of the shoulder and the arm to the rest of the body, where we have stronger core tissues to develop. You might even get a little adjustment. Sometimes you'll have cracks and pops that happen. That's a good thing. Your head can just follow along for the ride. And then here's the second action. Just bend your elbow on this one. Lift your elbow towards the ceiling. Play around with holding engagement in the arm for a few movements here. So just bring the arm up over the head and then move it back down and meet the hand. Most of us find it, I find it easier to engage rather than let go. Letting go is challenging. Engaging comes fairly easily. Some of us are opposite though. But just to play with what it feels like to let go a little bit, when your elbow comes up to the ceiling, you have a bend in the arm. Find your shoulder blade just rolling, just releasing and hanging down your back towards your spine. So let gravity take the weight of your arm to move your shoulder blade down towards the floor. The arm still stays high. And then squeeze into the armpit tissues to return the arm back forward and down. You certainly may not be as interested as I am in that action, but that action fascinates me. It's not one that I commonly do in my body, so it's a very interesting feeling to feel the tissues let go and to offer that opportunity to the body, like showing the body that option. And very often when I do that personally, I'll feel a shake come through or some kind of release of tension that I've been holding there that I don't realize. So if you enter that where your hand will wave around a little bit, sometimes it'll literally shudder or shake, just let that go. That's tension releasing from these tissues that aren't normally released for a lot of us. Most of us have our arms down by our sides, and a lot of us work in active positions that way. And then let's play with the full opening up, that thoracic rotation. So hands come together, and here's that full rainbow arc. To just take the hand all the way back behind you to the floor. Feel free to let your head roll right along, but if that hurts your neck, then maybe keep your neck in a more supported position for your body, whatever that means to you personally. Just explore what that feels like to open up. And notice that it's not just moving your arm back behind you, because if we just did that, we would shove the front of our shoulder forward. But it's actually this arm moving with the shoulder blade, moving with the rib cage, moving with your spine, moving with your pelvis, everything connected. And feel what happens with your breath when everything is connected. Then just come back onto your back. Take your time. And just take a few breaths there. And in your mind's eye, just feel now again the little dishes of your shoulder blades holding your rib cage. And see if anything has changed in your perception there. Notice when you breathe that your ribs move. And is there any movement that translates into your shoulder blades, your shoulders, your clavicles to the front? Let's roll all the way over onto one side. We're getting relaxed, yeah? Do you feel it in the room? It's relaxing to take that deep dive. It really is. It's like it just like puts us really into that parasympathetic state where we're just like, ah, what was I worried about? It's a nice place to be. Go ahead and push yourself up to 1 unit. It's not always like that some days though. So if you're having a day where your brain's pretty active, go easy on yourself, because sometimes it's just the hardest part is paying that much attention. Some days it's just downright boring. Okay, so just know that. So I personally like to use my blocks here because I have shorter arms. So the movement we'll be doing is pressing down into one hand. We'll lift another and we'll try to let this arm dangle. But I don't have enough height to really let my arm dangle the way I want it to. So if you have long arms, the blocks might get in your way, but if you have shorter arms, they might help you to just press down and in. This gives me more height to let my shoulder blade hang on my ribs. So we're just going to go into this somatic experience of pressing down into the floor, just so we're together. Push down into the floor on your right hand, lift your left arm up off the floor and let it hang. Yeah, so really just let it hang there. And you might have to really encourage your body, because there might be such a tension pattern in your body that your body's like, I don't really understand the mental prompt to let my head and my scapula hang. So this isn't about what this looks like. This is a very strange looking movement. So you're like, that looks so weird. You're right. This is all about what this feels like. So just let your arm go heavy and limp, and let the weight of the bones of your arm drag your scapula down off your shoulder blades. Let your head do whatever it wants, and the rest of your body do whatever it wants. Now we're just going to take this little crawl. So go to the second side. I'm going to put my block up a little bit more and come forward and let the other arm hang. And see what I feel there. So it doesn't matter if the arm that's pressing down into the floor is bent or straight or whatever. This is just your somatic experience. So just get in there and feel into your living body. The word soma is a Greek word that literally means living body. So be in your own living body here and notice what you feel when you let the arm hang. That's it, that's all. And then come forward again. We're just going to crawl along our mat here, hanging one arm. And then notice what the arm has to do to come to the floor of your block. The other knee follows, and then you just hang the other arm. We're taking this really slow, mindful crawl to the front of our mat. Doing very slow motion, strange things just to feel more. When you hang your arm, do you feel anything in your opposite hip or low back? Check out what happens to the other side. Do you feel the same pulls, or is your body different side to side? Notice what happens when you hang your head or when you don't. Like, how many different ways can you experience this? And then eventually, when you meet the front of your mat, top of your mat, take a backward investigative journey here. Same thing, just one knee comes back. And can you feel still into the connections of your shoulder, your scapula, shoulder blades, your rib cage, and can you feel anything into your obliques and your belly tissues? Can you find any connections there? And if the answer is like, no, not really, I don't really get this, that's okay. You're welcome. I heard that. Don't get it, don't get it. To get into this subtle investigative movement is interesting. Yeah. So you're just planting seeds if you're not really experiencing a whole lot yet. And then eventually you come to the back of your mat. And then feel free, if you're not aware of what child's pose is, it's an option to our downward facing dog that we may or may not explore. So this is child's pose, resting your forehead on the floor. Come back to any resemblance of that. Or as we move on, we'll come up to downward facing dog if that's in your wheelhouse. If it's not, you'll stay down on your knees and reach back. So let's come on to knees together. I'll show you a first approach, and then you can decide what's best for you. Take your right hand, reach it underneath to your left outer knee. So we're twisting through the body. Okay, and just feel that into your shoulder blade and your rib cage. And what if you scooped your belly way up away from the earth? Now do you feel the belly connection, waist connection into scapula, ribs, and arm? And come back to the second side, just switch sides there. So if going into downward facing dog is not really a good thing for you to do personally for your wrists or your arms or your shoulders, because it does put more downward facing pressure, downward pressure onto your upper body joints. If it's not right for you, this is where you'll stay. Otherwise, there's an option to curl your toes under, lift your hips high, coming into downward facing dog. And then if you're choosing this action, then you just lift one hand away from the floor and reach back towards your ankle or your foot or your heel or whatever. But don't let the arm that's holding you, don't let your armpit hang forward. So instead, lift your armpit up high, push into the floor, and get your scapula on your back. Okay, so it's a little bit deeper felt experience, maybe. So play with wisdom in your own body, feel that. And then just change sides, and you can change sides back and forth however many times you want. And just continue that exploration of what's happening between your shoulder blades, your arms, your rib cage, your spine, your pelvis, your whole body. So you're resting, you're going back in one more time. Okay, and if you're in from downward facing dog, come forward to plank. Slowly lower down. If you're on hands and knees, stay on your knees. Slowly lower your body down to the floor. Take your fingertips to the sides of your body. Come up high on your fingertips. Engage your toenails down into the floor. Hug your top of your thighs down into the floor. Scoop your navel up away from the earth so you're now supporting your back. Take the tops in front of your shoulders, bring them way away from the floor. Get your scapula plugged back into your back ribs. Beautiful. And from here, lift your head up. Remember how we started with our hands stacked. So lift your head as one unit. So this is very different than jutting your chin forward and creating wrinkles in the back of your neck. I don't want you to do that. Lift like those baby hairs at the back of your head. That's what I want you to lift from. Back in the day when I could touch, I would have been really happy to come around and pull those little baby hairs for you so you know just where to lift from.
That felt good.
Oh yeah, dude, wasn't that fun? I really miss those days. So retract your chin and feel the connections between your arms, your shoulder blades, your ribs, and your back. And slowly lower down. Stack your hands, take your forehead to your hands, and rock your head right to left. So interesting explorations between extensors, coordinating the extension of our back, and also shoulder blade connections to the ribs. It all plays in. So let's take our blankets. I want you to look at this fold. Go ahead and come up onto your knees or sit up or whatever. So the way this fold will go, we're going to make a little bolster for ourselves. So you can have it this long if you want, or you could double it up. You don't have to be too awfully particular about it, but a wide roll. So if you can roll it like 3 or 4 times, so we have about this width of a blanket, that would be great. And your nervous system really does understand differences. So try not to just have it from a, like I do laundry, you know, just a big folded thing, crumple it up. That was a confession. I do not like to fold laundry. And then we'll put it on our mat, and this will be our placement. So it's about this thick. Yeah. So this will be our placement for our pelvis. So we're going to put this, feel your pelvic bones, your ASIS, right in the front. And that'll be the placement where we'll put this blanket on our belly. Okay, so what this will assist with, when we put the blanket there, it will help us go into posterior rotation of our pelvis. So we won't be really squeezing the glutes and tucking the tail, but we'll be rolling our pelvis back. That is part of the back bend. Okay. So put your pelvis right on your little roll that you've made. And just wiggle right to left to make sure the bones of the front of your pelvis are set on that little roll that you've created there. So do you feel how now there's a sense that your tailbone goes downstairs? Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. And then take your forearms forward in front of you. Take your elbows a little in front of your shoulders. And then this is almost like that first action where all we did was lifted our heads. So just feel the lifting of your head. And notice that. And for some of us, just having the support under our pelvis is very helpful. So this might be your first position. What I'd like you to really pay attention to and resist doing is going into external rotation with your legs. So no toes out to the side. Okay, that's very, very hard on your sacrum, your low back, and your SI joints. So think about your upper inner thighs, roll them to the ceiling. So it's almost like you just rotated internally a little bit. That's a healthy way to come into a back bend with that little bit of inner thigh engagement. Okay, if you've been working in classes for a while, you know why we're doing that, because of the lesser trochanter connections into the psoas tissues, the intrinsic tissues into the front of the belly. If you've skipped a few classes, no worries, it'll eventually come around. I just want you to feel what's happening. So press into the floor, lift your head. So remember, we're not looking up, create no wrinkles in the back of your neck. Feel what this feels like in your body, and take the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, those little dishes, and just connect them magnetically into the back of your rib cage to feel your heart and your chest draw forward. Your shoulders and your arms, press your forearms down into the ground and isometrically drag them back to your hips. That's going to pull your sternum forward a little more. Stay here if you're still curious about this, or take a rest, or maybe you even pick up onto finger pads a little bit. You can feel that. If you've been on finger pads, lower down to the Sphinx position on your forearms. And then take your elbows out to the side, lower all the way down, and take a rest. Wiggle your hips around. So if you felt that a lot, that is your position to repeat. So as I offer further suggestions, by no means does that mean that you should attempt to force an agenda that's not right for your back. Okay, we all have different extension and flexion ranges of motion in our spines. Okay, so no beasting on yourself and no forcing an agenda as we move along. Instead, let's explore and feel in. So let's now take your hands out to the sides. This is baby cobra. So we were in Sphinx, if you're interested in those names of positions. Now fingertips are right by the chest, but take them a little wider to the outside edges of your real or imaginary mat. And then double chin back, so chin retraction. And then lift the back of the head and feel how the head is connected, so it will lift your rib cage. And if this is too much, then I want your forearms right back on the ground. And if you just happen to roll your feet out to the side, then upper inner thighs need to pull up to the ceiling to protect your back. And you're breathing. Oh yeah, we can breathe. And you'll probably want your arms out a little wider to give you more availability to wrap your shoulder blades into your back. Yeah, especially if you've got big, strong shoulders. And then from here, do you have any room to roll your shoulders around? Just check it out. Ooh, you might find some gnarly tissue around in between the shoulder blades and your spine there, yeah? And then lower down and rest. Okay, our third option, and you might just choose to rest here, is to go into a downward facing dog position, which I rarely teach because there's so much nuance to do it skillfully, but we've just built all of our actions to do this well. So the option, if you want to try it, is to take your hands to your sides. You might even watch first. We'll do a modification first instead of the full down dog, but I'll show you what the full dog is. Full up dog, sorry. Shoulder blades come back. So my scapula is on my back, my head lifts. My thighs press down into the ground because all back bends are born of the strength of your legs. And then I press off the floor. This is a much bigger back bend, as you can see. My thighs are still down. So this is a variation, but my belly is not collapsed. That's a crunchy, ouchy position for the low back. Instead, my navel is hugged in so I'm supported so that perhaps I can lift my legs up. Okay, but if you're there, your belly is so strong. So you're not collapsing into your back in any way. And then you can artfully just work on, this is how you eventually lift to downward facing dog. But it takes a great amount of strength and a build up to really do that well without hurting your lower spine. So it's really important to know. So let's see where we play. You might just lay there and just breathe. That might just be the best thing for you to do right now, right? Or if you'd like, you can take your hands to your sides. We're helping our pelvis out here with this little roll. Press into the strength of your arms. Remember, your head and your shoulders and your spine are all connected here. So we don't want our shoulders up here. We've got to wrap our shoulder blades into the back of our ribs to draw our heart forward. We want the back bend to come from our thoracic back, our upper back, rather than so much our lower back. So hug your belly in. And if you're feeling really strong, click your toenails down and lift up. Okay, that is a big if. That's a big if. So it's not less than if you choose to do something other. You might just be really guarding and protecting yourself. And if you're there with strength, then just pump the navel back to start feeling how you start moving toward if you eventually get to moving from up dog to down dog, because in a lot of our yoga practices, if you're going to any of those classes that are doing vinyasa flows, this happens over and over and over again. And it just makes me want to cry to watch people not do that well, because I know the breakdown that's happening in the body. You can do a lot less and feel a lot more sometimes. So thanks for taking the time to really feel the breakdown of what back bend artfully even looks like. So from here, I bet you naturally want to go in to exactly this position, child's pose or downward facing dog. So go ahead and head there. And if you have a vinyasa practice that's in your wheelhouse, feel free to flow through that. That goes plank, down dog, up dog, back to down dog. Yeah, chaturanga. And you can feel just what you've learned in your body. Or just pause and breathe. We've all learned in our body. We just learn with different levels and different things with however we've been playing lately. Enjoy your breath. I do have a restorative position coming for us at the end of class, so that'll be nice. From whatever position you're in, let's come into lunge. Let's take our blocks with us. Step your left foot forward, right leg back. Feel free to stay down on the right leg. I'll be demonstrating this from a lifted leg, but feel free to come down. I think I will. I don't know. I'll feel into my body. My body will decide for me. So, my bad. I went in with expectations. So you might want to pad your knee. You might want to have something under your knee. And then feel this lunge position. And especially for those of you that were in class yesterday, don't worry if you weren't, but feel your foot to your hip connections that we played with so much yesterday. Really get grounded into that. So scissor your legs front to back and right to left and feel your pelvis organize itself here. Now feel what happens if you take your right hand onto a high block. I recommend a high block, but we're not going to put too much weight there because I don't want you to accidentally roll on the block. Okay, that's not a good thing to do. So the block is there for us to press straight down into. And then with your other arm, your free arm, I want you to open up. But remember what you've learned about the connections between your arms and your scapula and your rib cage. So we're not just throwing our arm back, right? That's very different. I want you to go in and out of this rotation. And I just feel more freedom in my body when I come up into a higher plank here. That gives me access to my bottom shoulder a little more. So you can just decide what's better for you. But I just want you to feel that inhale and let your ribs move your arm. And let the experience of this guide your form. So feel into what you're experiencing. And even feel the connections from your feet into your pelvis. So when your spine rotates, your pelvis will orient itself around that rotation. So go ahead and let it. Just breathe in and feel. So both shoulders open up externally. The head just follows along because it's a part of your spine. And then come back to center, put the back knee down. Bring your rib cage right over your pelvis now. So instead of leaning forward in this lunge, we're more upright now. So we're paying attention to the opening at the front of the back hip. Hug your legs together, front to back and side to side. If your back leg is your right leg, reach your right arm up, feeling into the connections between your shoulder blade and those serrated tissues that I was talking about that wrap the ribs. And can you feel the rib connection into your waist, your obliques, and down into the front of your hip? What if we bent the hand, put the fingertips at the back of the head, and what if we moved our head back? It's the same thing we did when we were down on the floor, right? So there's extension of the back. Now we're coordinating our extensors. Come back to center, and then just do that again. Push into the back of your head, feel that all the way into the front of your hip. So we have a lunge and a cobra happening at the same time. One more time. Come back to center. Take your hands down on blocks. If a jump switch really thrills you, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, move into this lunge on the second side. However you want to. And then just organically feel into your lunge and decide, what does your body want to choose? Do you want to be down on your knee? Do you want to be lifted up? Whatever's right for you. Then organize your block however you want it here. And then let's just play with the other side. So we're opening up. When you open up, stay connected even to the front foot through your knee. Bring your knee back to your hip. So all the stuff we're learning from week to week to week, we're just layering it all in. And then open up again. So we've got foot to hip and pelvic connection, to belly connection. And now today we've been really artfully playing with the connections between our arm, our shoulder blade, our ribs. So let everything move together. Resist the tendency to let your arm lead, because our brain loves to tell the periphery to lead. And often if you're in a class, the teacher might just say, move your right arm up to the ceiling. And so you just move your arm, and it's easy to forget about your connections. So move your whole body as one unit and feel what's happening. What feels sticky? What feels blissful? What can you connect to? Then the next time you come forward, go ahead and take your hand back to a block or the floor. If your knee's been lifted, lower it down. Rather than leaning forward now, we'll pick up, ribs right over hips. Feel the scissoring in. So on your front leg, you can think about the outside of the knee. If you had a seam on your pants, just drag it back towards the hip. So you really shelve, bring your femur bone back into the sacrum. And then from side to side, we're connecting and hugging our hip bones towards each other. So now we have everything solidly engaged in our pelvis. And then whatever leg is back, if it's your left leg, left arm reaches up, and feel what happens when your arm lifts your serratus tissues, lifts your ribs, Your scapula, there's that little dish holding your rib cage. And can you feel that in the front of the hip? Yeah. And then feel it again because it's so interesting. And breathe into your body wherever you're noticing sensation. Feel your upper thoracic spine going into extension, into a back bend, and your belly is protecting your low back by hugging in and supporting. Take fingertips to the back of the head and just gently press your head back. But your armpit still stays connected. And if that's too much, you can release that because that's a lot. And then try it again in whatever is interesting you. And then come back to center. Come back onto your knees and through child's pose if you'd like, or if you feel like returning to downward facing dog, return to downward facing dog. Whatever rocks your world. And do another reach through. So reach through and twist in the spine by just taking one hand to the opposite knee or ankle. Just feel into what's happening in your body. What's the effect of your practice, of your experimenting? And then somehow, some way, come up to standing. I love the flourish. Well, it's just right. Ooh. Oh, ooh. We got kind of warm too. Yeah, we're moving energy. That's good stuff. Okay, let's stand to the front of our mats and we'll step back. So crescent lunge. So step your right foot back and come up onto the ball of the toe if you can access that with your foot. Yeah, great to have something to hold on to if need be. Also, when you step back, if you step back and your legs are all in one line, you'll be like a bird on a wire. So you might need to create some more width to find a little bit more security in your legs. If it's hard to access that lift of the back foot, you can ground it. Okay, so there's an option. So crescent lunge is the same thing we've been practicing. This is a lunge. So connect from your feet, connect your thigh bones into your pelvis. And then knowing all of this connection to upper body, we reach the arms up and it's a lunge at a cobra. So we're into extension in our back. So feel that into your body. And if you've got that back heel lifted, grab your sticky mat with the ball of your foot and pull your sticky mat back. Oh, did you just wake up your glute, perhaps? And yes, and that's going to help manage the extension at the front of your hip. And then maybe you play with elbows really wide, fingertips to the back of your head. And what if you press your head back to lift your ribs and your heart? And if this is too much, then you're out. And that's no big deal. So you can start to see how this can go on and on and on, yeah? So play in a field that's interesting to you. Lower your hands down and just go in one more time. Lift up, reach up. You could even try goalpost arms, elbows forward, thumbs back. I wonder why we've been hammering on this one for a while. Do you see how it plays in here? Chest lifts. So get your chest higher and higher because of the engagement of your scapula into your back. I know. And if you're like, whoa, this is a lot of work, you're right. Go ahead and release back out.
Even when you see the ball foot back, you mean back to the pelvis or back to back?
I mean, back. Yeah, back there. Like an angry bull. Okay, there's my new cue. Switch sides. Thanks for helping me learn to teach with more understanding. Yeah, I appreciate those questions. Well, it's a whole new side. Who knows what'll happen? So see if you can stay that high on the foot comfortably, and if you can't, then reorganize, readjust for your own body. And then here's the scissoring, front to back leg. Feel the connection connection into your pelvis. We gotta fight for our pelvis, keep our pelvis really strong and safe here. And then just reach, let's try just reaching one arm up, same leg that's back. There's those psoas and front connections. See if you can feel that in your body. And remember how we had that little roll under our pelvis? Almost feel like you roll your pelvis back a little bit here. And then just release and come down. And then let's go in again, just with curiosity to all these connections we found. How do our arm movements coordinate with our shoulder blades? When do your shoulder blades capture the back of your ribs and push them up towards the ceiling? Your best friend's hands, that's you. And then maybe you hold on to the head and connect the piece of the head. That matters a lot. Just feel whatever it is you're feeling, might be quite a lot. And then drag your ball of the foot back like an angry bull. And you'll expect to center. If there's no room to laugh, you're in too deep by the way. And then let's try the goalpost arms. So goalpost arms that we practice ad nauseum, I know. Elbows forward, thumbs back. There's that scapular engagement. Now you've got the back of your heart. Now let's lift your heart up to the ceiling. And let the rest of your body just follow how it follows. However it's right for your whole body. So your experience is guiding your action and your intention. Maybe you support the head and forget about what this looks like. What does it feel like to you? Are you honoring yourself here, even through the challenge? And release back. Stand strong on the front leg, step up. Ooh, that's a big step up there, right? After you've really opened up the front of the hip. Wow. So when we take the time to really like dig deep into what these positions are about, I find it really curious, very interesting to me. So watch this, how we'll lay out this restorative for our blankets. So we'll take our blanket like this. I'm so not an iron guard teacher. Iron guard teachers are very, very specific with their props. So if you've ever studied with an iron guard teacher, you don't mess up how you fold. So it always kind of freaks me out a little bit because I told you my folding trauma, I just don't like it. So you don't have to get too excited about it. It's about like this. And then we're going to take the end that doesn't have the fringes and go with, you know, I always do this higher than I should because I get overzealous. I'm like, I can do that, but don't make too big of a roll in it. Maybe err on the small side, and you can make adjustments, okay? And then the other end is going to be for your head and your neck, so you'll roll it as well. And then I'll show you what the end position ends up being like. The larger roll, it might or may or may not be the larger roll, might be the smaller roll. You'll have to make adjustments. You'll go right across the lower part of your shoulder blades. So it'll be underneath your armpits, and then this other roll will be for your head. And your shoulder blades will be able to drop in between these two rolls. That's all I got for instruction. You got to figure it out on your own from there. I know, right?
Sure, I did it wrong.
Yeah. Well, see, it's one thing I was excited about. Now that I no longer can walk around and help everybody, like, I could just say, and you guys don't have to figure it out. It's kind of exciting to me.
What pulls here?
Your shoulder, Mary. I love it. You're already in with the group, aren't you? So bottom roll goes on the bottom of your shoulder blades. Your scapula themselves, your shoulder blades will be in the middle of these two rolls. And then if you need anything extra on either end there, under your knees or anywhere else, then give yourself permission to support yourself there. But you really want some space in between those two rolls for your shoulder blades to fall down and in between. if we had more props, then we would prop under your knees, and then they call this babbling brook sometimes. So if you want an image there. This is where we practice softening and letting go, which for some of us is some of the most challenging aspect of our yoga practice. Like engaging, no problem, but letting go, that can be kind of tricky. So just notice what gets heavy into the floor. And if right now this feels like, whew, this is a big push on your back to have that roll, then you can have it up too high. And so you might need to lower it. A little goes a long way here. And then in your legs, just do this action of rolling your upper inner thighs down to the floor, or you could even reach down and pick up your buttock flesh and pull it out to the sides. And that'll help roll your femur bones inward a little bit to help soften the front of your hips. And then if you brought your roller or anything else that you want under your knees here, feel free to use that. Or if it's uncomfortable on your low back, you might just need to put your feet on the floor and bend your knees. So please give yourself permission to make adaptations. We want our heads in a position where our forehead is not lower than our chin. So we don't want our chin jutting up to the ceiling here. So if you need to create any height underneath your head, or maybe you just need to retract your chin a little bit, draw it down like a double chin, you might be able to just settle in there. Now feel your shoulder blades just surrender heavy into the floor. And feel that natural lifting up of your rib cage and the opening of your heart. So this can feel like a fairly vulnerable position. So just notice what's there with you. Just recognize that right here, right now, you're in a safe place. We'll be here for a few minutes. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. So enjoy your experience. Just notice what's there with you. Stay present. Keep going back to scanning your body as a whole. Notice how you're breathing. If you notice that your brain is still processing your class, or thinking about the future or the past, just draw your awareness right back into this embodied experience in this very moment. Just take it one breath at a time. If this position is still feeling wonderful to your body, feel free to stay right there. If it's not, feel free to release the blanket and the rolls or make any adjustments to help you feel more at ease. So we've been really playing with a lot of ways in which not only our physical bodies connect, but how everything connects. So here's a closing poem if you choose to open your ears and listen. It's called The Social Life of Water. All water is part of other water. Cloud talks to lake. Mist speaks quietly to crick. Lick says something back to cloud, and cloud listens. No water is lonely water. All water is just part of other water. River rushes to reunite with ocean. Tree drinks rain and sweats out dew. Dew takes elevator into the clouds. Cloud marries puddle. Puddle has long conversation with lake about fjord. Fog sneaks up and murmurs insinuations to swamp. Swamp makes needs known to marshland. Thunderstorm throws itself on estuary. Waterspout laughs at joke of frog pond. All water understands. All water understands. Reservoir gathers information for database of watershed. Brook translates lake to waterfall. Tide wrinkles its green forehead and then breaks through. All water understands. But you stand on the shore of Blue Lake, Kiev in the evening and listen, breathing as if something stirs and turns within you, not knowing why you linger in the dark, not able even to guess from what you are excluded. Allow yourself a moment to know yourself as a collective whole part of everything. Somebody said you're not one drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in one drop. Become aware of what props you have underneath your body and how they're aligned with your spine. Feel free to start unraveling those rolls. How you do that is entirely up to your body. Find an easy way. And just start releasing your spine from that position. Take your time. Whenever you're ready, come up to a seated position. So as you move in your day-to-day, just remember your connections. When our heads hang, our back hurts. Sometimes it's not about our back, it's about how we're aligning the rest of the body. So think about that when your shoulders are forward and something else aches. What do you want to do to get connected to more of a lightness of being in your body that will allow lightness of being in your breath and in your mind? So we can change our psyche just through this physical practice of changing our body and connecting, knowing our connections. So just notice what your practice, whatever connected with you, that's what you're meant to understand today. Let go of the rest. Big inhale. If you choose, just take your hands together down to heart center. Just humbly bow into your own heart, knowing your own magnificence. And go share your light out into the rest of the world. Let's take our practice off our mats. Congratulations for the triumph of getting home good. Namaste. Namaste.
I like that. Yeah, one drop. Yes, I love it. Good.
Pauline will be here serving for me next week on Saturday and Sunday. Speaking of water, I'm going to Kauai. Go swim in the ocean.
I feel good. Imagine all the energy you'll bring back.
Saturday.
I love doing it.
I'm going to ask to learn how to, create my embroidery.
I think so.
Yeah, I will do that. All different sizes. I love it. Yes. Yes.
So you can still believe restorative or 450 right now.
Really?
What?
Belize is beautiful.
Belize is $450. What?
Just that.
Belize is
There are things pondering in there, Sarah.
Oh,
Yeah. I just thought, it's going to make it more HPV, but it's surrounded
I
by.
got the test within 72 hours and getting there.
You're the guy
Test
sometimes.
results.
Yeah, I've been in Guatemala.
As long as you've got test results, you're good to go.
Went back there. Everybody comes to us, so they travel from all the countries around.
Thanks for hanging in, guys. I love you. I'll see you soon.
When we were here, I swear they were 4 or 5 people. Oh my God.